I went into this meeting with this topic, but good evening, everyone. I'm doing very well. Director Matthews, welcome everyone. I'm calling to order this Operations Management Budget and Government Accountability meeting of Monday, November 15th to order. Hello, everyone again. On my screen, as I see, I am going to introduce my council colleagues. And the way I see them, I see Councilwoman Rossetti, who is a non-voting member, Councilman John Gale, who is a voting member, Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon, who is a voting member, Councilman James Sanchez, who is not a voting member, and Councilman LeBron, who is not a voting member. Also with us is our wonderful Development Director, Mr. I. Charles Matthews, along with Aaron Howard from Development Services, Mr. Randall Davis, and our wonderful Corporation Counsel, Mr. Howard Rifkin. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First on our agenda is a resolution introduced by Councilman LeBron, and I signed on to it. It's a resolution to appoint Raul DeJesus to the Capital Region Council of Government. And I am going to leave the floor now to Mr. Councilman LeBron to speak about this resolution. And the resolution states, whereas the Capital Region Council of Governments, known as CROG, was founded in 1968, and whereas CROG is a voluntary council of government formed to initiate and implement regional programs of benefit to the towns and the regions, and whereas CROG is guided by the chief elected officials of the 38 Metro Hartford municipalities, and whereas CROG has a seat designated for a representative to the city of Hartford that is elected by the Court of Common Council, and whereas Raul DeJesus has extensive experience within the city of Hartford, including the Hartford Police Department, the Court of Common Council, and the mayor's office. And with that, I will pass the floor to Councilman LeBron. Good evening. Mr. DeJesus, how are you?
All is well, Madam President.
Councilman Nick LeBron.
Thank you, Madam President, and through you. So I think the resolution was quite clear on the level or degree of former Councilman DeJesus's expertise and talent. And so that's why I introduced the resolution. The other thing I think as well is the ability to integrate himself into a moving body that is beyond Hartford. A lot of times the initiatives that we discuss here in our city don't just involve our city, they involve surrounding towns. And we need to maximize our opportunities to take advantage of the vehicles that are placed in front of us to be able to do so. One of those things in this instant is the body of the Capital Region of Council of Governments, where former Councilman DeJesus' experience as a Hartford leader, really a mover and shaker, a community catalyst, working in government, working as a council person, and just overall been dedicated to this city, raised his family here, and just all the check marks that we would like to see. I think that he will be a wonderful candidate. So, I'll stop with the accolades there, and I'll give the floor to Councilman DeJesus.
Well, thank you very much, Councilman LeBron. This is a huge honor. Anytime you're called upon to serve the city that you were born, raised, and you're raising now a family yourself. For me, it's a huge honor to always be named or considered for a position where I can have some say of where the city goes in some direction at the leadership of the council. So you guys invested in trust in me to make sure we carry out your duties. The CROG is an organization that in many ways it is very instrumental into the policies that council produces on a day-to-day basis. What I've seen in the past is that because currently the council does not have representation there, some of the issues that are happening or conversations that are happening, the council does not have some say or some input in there, or getting feedback or enough feedback to bring back to when that project comes before them, they have the information that they have. But sometimes when that project is before them, it's a little bit too late to make any changes. And so sometimes as policymakers, you want to get ahead of the policy in order to get your word heard. And so I think that is, super instrumental for the legislative body, and to balance in the executive branch and the legislative branch in the city of Hartford. So I think I hope that we can do that in conjunction with the executive branch, but I definitely want you guys on council to be able to bring these ideas to the table, and not only that, but also get some feedback as to how much interest there is for it, and then you guys can tailor it. So I really want you guys to really exercise these 3 appointments that have not been really fully used in the past 2 decades, I would say. And I think it's a great opportunity, especially now where you have a regional movement of state government and sharing and collaborating in the region. So there's a lot to be said. I don't plan on leaving this city. I'm giving my best years to the city of Hartford. I began working for the city at the tender age of 16. Still very young, and I still have the energy. And I think this is what's necessary for a position like this, where we can probably pass the baton to somebody else, or someone right now in the Hartford Public Schools right now who is going to hopefully pick up that baton for the work that we're all doing right now is going to take the city to the next level. And I have the energy, I have the time. I know it's almost impossible, but I have 2 young kids. But I am, super excited to get this work going.
Thank you, Mr. DeJesus. I want to congratulate you. I know that you serve as the vice chair of the charter revision. So thank you for all the services that you volunteer to the city of Hartford. I'm going to open up the floor now to my colleagues for any questions. Councilwoman Surgeon, followed by Councilman Sanchez. Councilwoman Surgeon, you're on mute. There you go.
Okay, there you go. It's nice to see you again, Mr. DeJesus. I hope you're doing well. Family's doing well.
Yeah.
Great. I'm gonna through you, Madam Chair, to how many to you, Madam Chair, to our Corporation Council, how many appointments does the council have? And I was reading the on our website, what are the requirements for the appointment? So could our esteemed Corporation Council let us know how many appointments does the council have, and what are the requirements for this position?
Through you, Council President, I believe the charter of CROG gives the City of Hartford 4 additional appointments made by the council to the CROG Planning Board. The mayor serves as the chief executive officer. I believe Mr. Davis, who's on the screen, is serving as the alternate for the mayor. And then, as I said, the council has additional appointments. Mr. DeJesus would be one of those additional appointments. I believe the qualifications are that the individual just be a resident of the city of Hartford.
Okay. So our website, through you, Madam President, that said it has to be elected official is incorrect?
The way the well, there are two things. One is the alternate, the provisions of the underlying CROG statute, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, I apologize, has a provision that says the alternate, it's preferred to be an elected official, but not required. And then the additional appointments given to the council can be either council members or individuals appointed by the council.
Great. Have to talk to our town clerk and have them fix it on the website.
Well, actually, when I go in there and I read it, it says the city of Hartford shall have 3 additional members, representatives appointed by its legislative body. Alternates may also be designated by the appointing authority for each of these 3 representatives and need not be elected officials.
So this will be an additional, or this is so Mr. DeJesus will be a regularly appointed, not an alternate.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And I stand corrected, it's 3 appointees, not 4.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Surgeon. Councilwoman Surgeon, do you have any other questions?
I didn't get the cue card on the questions that were coming.
No, I'll send it next time, Howard.
Excellent.
Are you all set, Councilwoman Surgeon?
Yes, ma'am. That
Okay,
answers
great.
my question.
Thank you. Councilman Sanchez? We can't hear you, Councilman Sanchez. Still can't hear you. Did you want to try logging off and logging back on? We'll wait. In the meantime, does any other member, Councilman John Gale, which is a voting member, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President and Madam Chair. And thank you, Mr. DeJesus, for volunteering to get on a CROG. It's a very important body, and it has been somewhat distressing to me that we haven't been paying more attention. And so I'm very happy to see you stepping forward. I think that CROG has the potential to do a lot of very good work for the entire, greater Hartford area. I mean, it's one of the unfortunate aspects of Connecticut government that we don't have county government, we don't have regional government, unlike 49 other states. And it really, at times, you can see where it hurts us in trying to plan large projects. And I know we've got some pretty big things coming up. Don't know to what extent CROG will be involved with them, but I know that you will be, and that you will be paying attention to Hartford 400 and some of these exciting plans that are coming up. And I look forward to having a lot of very robust conversations with you about these things.
If not, so I'm not gonna.
Just wanted to thank you for that. So
I thank you, for all your service too. Thank you.
And for the record, our majority leader, Mr. Thomas Clark, has joined our meeting, who also serves as co-chair of OMBGA. Good evening, Mr. Clark. Mr. Councilman Sanchez, do you have audio now?
I'm not sure. Do you hear me?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Okay,
The floor is
awesome. I apologize for that.
yours. Go ahead.
So, good evening, everyone. Councilman DeJesus, it's a pleasure to see you this evening.
Pleasure to see you, Councilman.
Thank you. I have 3 questions. So my first question is, what is your understanding as far as the role being on this board on CROG?
So a few things. I think the first role, because there's been council absence, is trying to get familiar with the system that has been put in place. So they just changed the bylaws, understanding the ropes, understanding who are the key players, understanding how I can relate that over to you guys, so that, because I am almost sure your leadership is going to be amazing. I think you guys are going to be, I think, the only council that's probably going to fill up all those 3 seats. And I think I am going to be kind of like the gatekeeper going in and kind of letting you guys know this is what's going on, this is what's on the agenda, and really listening to you guys as to what are your priorities and what I should focus on and what I should bring back for deliverables. I think that for me is the most important. So we can have real synergy between the council and the regional council and get you guys as, I wouldn't say cut up, it's not the best word, it's the only one that comes up to mind, but bringing in this information and seeing what, if any, this can be of help to council at the current time. For me, the most important thing is to make sure there is some synergy between the Court of Common Council of the City of Hartford and CROG. It hasn't happened for a while. So I just want to make sure that relationship is one that is solid and that there is constant communication between the appointees and the Court of Common Council of the City of Hartford. I think that kind of sums up all 3. I wish I can go to all of them, but I think that is paramount right now, to make sure that those who are members right now understand that this city council, it is serious about making sure we have an active role on all their policies in this region. And I think that's a strong message that I think you guys will be making during your term.
I appreciate that. So that gives, that's basically a segue to my next question. As you know, that the trash to energy plant will be shutting down next year in the summer, but unfortunately they're trying to become a transfer station, which is not beneficial to the city. The host fee, we may not be receiving any more host fees if they do become a transfer station. So I'm not sure if you're aware of what's been going on with the mirror facility. Also, I'd like to add in, which is my third, where there is a resolution that this council body has passed to decommission and shut down the Brandon Airport for development that will benefit the city of Hartford. Have you read any of the information or understand what's going on, and do you support this?
So there's 2 separate issues. One of the stands that we took, during my time in council, we were actually part of that negotiation process of shutting down the landfill right behind the public works yard. And immediately we tried to find immediate use for it. And I was one of the first proponents, actually the only councilman that went up there when they put up the solar panels. So I wish we could do more with that space. And we try to really get creative with bringing back that space back into the tax rolls. And we were only able to do the solar panels, but that is contributing to the local economy in the sense of trying to at least lower the energy costs for businesses in that region. And so the Bernard, I'll be honest, I know there's been a conversation for probably the past 20 years about if it opens, if it closes. I know in the past about 8 years, there's been about 5 to 8 years, there's been a change of management. It hasn't been an area where the city has seen much financial gains. And so I think it is a subject that needs to be looked into a little deeper in order for me to kind of fine tune it and kind of figure out where the city wants to go with that and see what opportunities they're presented. But I don't know enough about the issue and how much it can generate. I think it needs further information. I think with time and hopefully with this ability to be a part of CROG, where you have all the key players of the region in this, we can probably I can better answer that question to see, what options there is. And for the incinerator, is any of the nearby communities, are they willing to pick up that hole that we left behind, right? That we don't want the incinerator here. So there's different conversations we can have, but I think, through time, I'll be able to give a better answer.
Okay, so in the meantime, just to let you know that this body has passed the resolution to not only to close it down, but to keep it from becoming a transfer station. So being that the body has passed this, do you support it? Will you
Definitely.
advocate for the council to continue this venture as far as shutting it down and then finding the best use for that property? The same thing with the Brandner Airfield, the Brandner Airport, most people know. So this body has passed a resolution to discontinue that airport and to find the best use. Do you support that?
Yes, if this body supports it, I'm definitely on it. And I'm ready for directions as to how you guys want to move this and use CROG as a vehicle, potential vehicle. We don't know if we can use it as a vehicle to further move that policy you guys put in place.
Okay, so that is what I'm looking for if you are appointed. And I would look forward to a conversation with you on these two items. Because I think it's important. And again, it does benefit the city, and what benefits the city is what I care about. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman Sanchez. Councilwoman Rossetti, followed by Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Council President. Through you, Attorney Rifkin, how many positions do we have? If appointed, how many positions would there then be?
Through you, Council President, Madam Chair, I believe there are 3 appointments that the council has. This would be the first of 3.
That is good.
Okay, so we don't count the mayor and Randall,
No.
the esteemed Mr. Davis as.
No,
Okay.
these are bonus members provided.
Okay, so, just throwing it out there, Mayor, esteemed Mr. Davis, if appointed, Mr. DeJesus, I'd like us to think about a woman next time. And that's my only comment. Thank you.
Absolutely, Councilwoman Rossetti. Councilman Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Councilwoman Rossetti actually answered one of my questions, so thank you for asking that. But also to Councilman DeJesus, thank you for your willingness to get back into form of public service to serve the city. And forgive me if I'm being repetitive in my question to you, but what's your why serve on CROG? What's driving you to be a member of this? And this is a regular member, not a member of the planning committee, correct?
So yeah, I was gonna. So there's yeah. So the main committee allows the bylaws allow 3 members, and then the regional planning committee actually has some additional appointments. One can be from the Planning and Zoning Board, and the others don't need to be from the Planning and Zoning Board. And we can probably, I don't have that information in front of me, but is it part of the bylaws? So I would say there's 3 appointments, and then there's an alternate for each appointment. So there can be an alternate for me, there can be an alternate for the other person, and there could be an alternate for the other person, is what my understanding is. And, we have the City Corporation Council to clarify that. As to where it comes down to what drives me there, I think if you are involved in a city, if you look at some of the policies you guys have been implementing, we are looking to collaborate with the community or our region. I mean, we have leadership in place, especially this council has really seen beyond the borders of Hartford to look for solutions to our issues. And I think is a progressive movement, is a movement that needed to be there, is forward thinking. And I think when I saw that, I said, I want to be in that arena where I have, a group of talented guys like you guys are, helping you guys get there and, making sure that some of the things that you guys want to implement get done. And I think is important that you have a council like yours that is looking at outside of the borders to have others support our city, as we are a regional hub. So many things end up in the city of Hartford and we get the bad press for it. Yet it's the work that is not being done in the region that ends up being Hartford's issues. And I think this is a conversation I had with a council member, the frustration that it is to be a council member when we're getting, you, especially council, you guys are getting calls every single day about something that's going on. And if you trace that issue, a lot of the aides that work with you guys will trace these issues to problems that are happening in East Hartford, West Hartford, Glastonbury, New Britain, that end up being our problems. And kind of like Hartford has become like the city where the buck stops. And it is frustrating. And I think we need to figure out how we can engage the community to tackle these issues together. And I think there is enough interest in that regionalism, thinking about the region, that motivates me, because this is not something that I would take upon myself. I would never do that if it was a different council and I did not see the leadership skills that you guys had and the ability to think of this. I would not be able to do that, because I will be just a appointed person on its own, right? But it is better to be there as a representative of the Quarter County Council, and I am supporting something that you guys are supporting. It's a lot stronger approach than just having Raul DeJesus wants X, Y, and Z. No, this is the Quarter Common Council. This is what you guys are presenting. This is what we are talking about. And I think that sends a stronger message to the region that we are looking at this together in a way to unify it.
Thank you for that. If I can ask you another question or two, I want to dive deeper into some of the issues that CROG is dealing with as it relates, obviously, from a regional perspective, but how it relates to Hartford. Do you know what some of the issues that are before the board now, and what they're dealing with, and how that actually affects us as residents?
So CROG was kind of created to help the city. And in a way, that's why we get these additional seats. There's a mix of stuff that is still in committees. As you know, up in the legislature, a lot of stuff gets buried in the committees and don't come into the light. So one of my first things I've been trying to do is been going back a few years, going into the agendas and trying to figure out where things have stopped, why they have stopped. So to figure out everything that's been moving and shaking there has been a little bit challenging. I'm up for the challenge, but figuring out where everybody stands is one thing. I'm looking at the votes, trying to figure out where people are voting, where things are going, who's championing what. So I'm trying to learn the grand scheme of this, because we haven't had, the last person we had was Dave McDonald, Councilman Dave McDonald, that attended a few meetings, and they had some weird hours that he couldn't accommodate. So I try to tap into him to see what is the dynamic up there and try to figure out where things are going. But it is interesting, needless to say, to figure out where they're headed. There's transportation issues. The Tiger Grant was the last thing that we were able to do with the Bushnell Beautification Project, where we're trying to connect Bushnell Park and the riverfront. That is still ongoing. They're trying to work on that. They're working with the concrete foundations, which is a more regional thing. They're working with the I-84. They pretty much spearheaded that. That has significant impact as to how this 84 has divided this city. And I think if there's not a crucial time to have people there that can really express, right, the problem that 84 has caused and how it's literally divided a city. You know, I live here all my life, and I know how it affects me on a daily basis. And this is kind of all these issues that are coming about, the regional transportational systems for the elderly, Dollaride, understanding how we can get that to a potential where we can service more elderly populations, where they can go grocery shopping. As we're moving away from the nursing homes, regional transportation for the elderly is becoming a huge amenity, especially when we don't have grocery stores in our city. So they're in charge of that type of transportation. We need to worry about our elderly, because as they're the ones who the reason that we're here. And then we have to worry about the youth too, and how to integrate them into these systems and create that synergy again, and connect all these dots, because it's very tough if you don't have the representation, if you don't have a voice there, for the region to understand what the real issues are. So they'll get a analysis done of how many people travel on 84, all that good stuff, but they don't hear the stories. And I think is important that people really understand from our viewpoint, or several people, because the mayor does this all the time, but it's always, it's always nice to have a choir. I think it's the harmony, it sounds more harmonious, people enjoy it more. And I think that's kind of what we're missing at CROG. And hopefully this could be a start to something that we can be a little bit more, we can be heard a little bit more.
Thank you. One last question. If you are appointed as a member, what's one goal that you have?
Listen, the number one goal is, and I say, and I talked to a few of you guys, we need to create some linkage, right? We need to create some linkage with the Port County Council and CROG. And in a way, let them know that we've had those three positions. And you speak to some of them, it's like, why you guys don't take advantage of things? And that is kind of I don't want to say this, and this is being recorded, and I'm fair because you guys don't take advantage of enough of these things that happen in the region, is the kind of the model. And that perception is probably soon going to go away. So I know you guys are on it. You guys are going to be sending some great talent up there. And I think we want to make sure that we're going to take advantage of every position, every appointment, any seat at a table that is given to us. And I think that is important, to send a message. We are here. This is a whole different Court of Common Council who is going to exercise their ability to send out 3 of their representatives and hopefully 3 alternates, so that they can continue the mission of the people of the city of Hartford.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from my colleagues? There being none, the chair will entertain a motion. Oh, Councilman Gale?
Move that we send this back to council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly second. Any other discussions? There being none, signify by saying aye if you wish to move this resolution back to a favorable recommendation to council. Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? There being none, congratulations, Mr. Raoul, and thank you for your interview here with us today. This resolution is being sent back to council with a favorable recommendation. Mr. Raoul, feel free to join us. If not, feel free to log off. Next on the agenda, thank you. Next on the agenda this evening is item 2.2, which is Mayor Bronin with a company resolution authorizing the mayor, subject to review and approval of a term sheet for the project, to enter into a purchase and sales agreement and ground lease with a development team of Wonderworks Construction Corporation of 275 Pearl Street. And with that resolution, it starts off by an introduction by Mayor Luke Bronin, whereas the city owns a parcel of land situated at 275 Pearl Street, which is the property, and whereas Wonderworks Corporation, the developer, submitted a proposal and has ultimately been selected as the developer for the project, and whereas the developer proposes the conversion of the property, a former firehouse, into a mixed-use development comprising 4,000 square feet of commercial space and 40 residential units. With us this evening is from the administration, our development director, Mr. I. Charles Matthews. You have the floor, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll turn it over shortly to Aaron Howard, our Director of Development. But let me just first say, the the parcel at 275 Pearl Street, the old fire station, and the parcel at 525 Main Street are in fact linked together. I'll say to you, and Aaron will repeat it, I got on board, as many of you know, back in July of 2020. And since 2020 July, we've been trying to put together this package. As you know, our goal is to find a way to take properties that are owned by the city that may not be generating any revenue and repurpose those properties for the purpose of not only generating revenue, but making a benefit to the neighborhoods in the downtown area where they may be located. Again, these two parcels, while you may have them as separate resolutions, are in fact tied together. After a year and a half of working on these projects, it was clear to us that this could not be penciled out. That is 525 and 275 unless we link them. And you will note when you talk to the developer, they convinced their investors and the banks to look at these two properties as one. I think after you hear the presentation from WonderWorks and the presentation of Ms. Howard, my hope is you will agree that we have satisfied the mission of trying to bring two underused properties in the city back to a purpose where we can in the future get some tax revenue, but more importantly, in the very near term, have two pieces of properties that will serve the interests of the city. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Howard and then she'll introduce the developers. Aaron?
Thank you, Charles. Good evening, Council and Council President Rosado. To that point, we did put together a presentation. We actually put a quick presentation together about both deals, with the ending of it being a bit of a presentation and discussion by the developers themselves. So if that's okay with you, I'd like to kind of just run through both projects and share that with everyone.
Absolutely.
Great. I just want to point out today on the call as well, I have William Diaz, a senior project manager on the economic development team, who has been the project manager for both of these deals within DDS. And together you also have representatives from WonderWorks Construction. You have Daniel Kleinberg and Joseph Kleinberg, who are also here with us today. So just to kind of quickly start off, I'm going to share my screen. Wow. Here we go. Can you see that presentation PDF? Awesome. Yeah. Great. Thank you. So I'm just going to start off really quickly. Just want to point out, to add what Charles had said, that we're looking at both of these deals together. One of the things to point out is when investors are looking to make investments in any deal, they want some level of return on investment. And that return on investment changes from deal to deal, but typically we'd like to see a return somewhere between 9 to 13% in that initial year. To make these deals attractive. And I think it's important to note that while one deal, 525, we were able, through a lot of hard work, to get the return closer to 10%. On the 275 Pearl Street deal, we weren't really able to get that much, anywhere closer to maybe about 8%. And so if you look at the two deals together, combined for the investor, they're averaging at about a 9% return on investment to make both of these deals work. So the numbers are very tight, just throwing that out there to start. So I'll run through these pretty quickly. The first deal is 275 Pearl Street. It's an existing historic property. It's the old former firehouse. We do have some environmental constraints with the property, and it's been a historic property within the city's inventory for almost 95 years. So we have not generated any level of taxes on this property for quite some time. The proposal on the table is for a mixed use development. This is an old historic firehouse, so it's an adaptive reuse of an existing property. Right now on the table are approximately 39 units of residential housing with about 4,000 square feet of commercial space with about 17 spaces of parking. And the total project cost here is around 9.5 million of an investment going into rehabbing this property. I would like to point out one of the key things for the city at the time looking at this property alone was the opportunity that an old firehouse brings to development in a downtown. the opportunities for some cool restaurant, arts, entertainment was really what we were hoping we would get out of this part of this deal. And so we made it a requirement that there had to be a commercial component to this, and that it had to reflect some arts, entertainment, restaurant type like use. So high level, the terms for this deal, this would be a straight purchase and sales agreement. With that means that we have built-in due diligence, a due diligence period and performance. So typically with our purchase and sales, we'll add kind of like a regular sale, but some milestones that have to be met. Financing has to be in place, permits, zoning, all of that has to be in place before we go to closing in order for that deal to happen. In this deal, like I said, the numbers are really close and tight. And so the sale for this property alone is for $360,000, but we built that into the financing terms to defer that payment over a period of time that will be collected at a future refinance date. So while there is a sale of the property, it's almost like we're taking a mortgage against the sale in order to help the numbers work to reduce the total project costs to help the city move that forward to get a higher rate of return. Also, again, 10-year tax fixing agreement. As you are aware, this deal also includes about 2.9 of a city investment. There is $5 million that have been identified by council, that was approved by council to move to CRDA for these two projects alone. So instead of using CRDA bond money, the money being used for these deals will be the city investment that was approved back in April of this past year. Again, retail space of 4,000 square feet and that will be a land use restriction and part of a community benefit. We also required the developer, because we're so big right now on activating vacant spaces, especially in our downtown, especially after the pandemic, that we requested that the developer put dollars into the fit out of that space to make the business that will go there successful. And so the developer has committed to do so here. And then, of course, as always, with all of our city deals, we always move forward with the 15-30-15 rules of minority representation, the 30% goals to hire Hartford residents, and the 15% trade workers, as well as living wage requirements. So specific to the tax fixing agreement, this would be a 10-year tax fixing agreement under 12-65B general statutes. What we're proposing, and we've run a number of iterations here to make this work, is a 10-year based off a percentage of gross revenues. So the first 3 years of the deal, starting at the sale, would be for a 0% payment on taxes. This helps the developer go through construction and get to a stabilization here when they've had enough, the ability to rent up the spaces to actually generate some revenue for the property. From years 4 to 5, we move to 3%. 6 to 7, 4, and then from 8 to 10, we go up a little bit more, 5, 6, and 7, in order to help this deal. The total approximate value combined for taxes for that first 10 years is about $219,000. And then at the end of it all, on year 11, when they're paying a full stabilized tax rate, it's approximately $136,000. Now, keep in mind that's based on today's bill rate and today's assessed values, which those are subject to change over time. But for context and for some assumptions, those are the numbers. So to switch gears over to 525 and Main Street and 17 and 21 Wells Street. So this is the old 525 Main Street, it's right across from City Hall. It's an existing property. It used to be the offices for the City of Hartford Public Works. It has been underutilized for quite a bit of time, but there are 2 commercial spaces active with tenants right now. And again, we are currently, other than those lease payments that we receive, we are not collecting any taxes on this property either. The proposal on the table for this would be additional residential units, 42 units. It'd be a mixed-use development with about 2,700 existing commercial space. There will be amenities as well for both of these deals, quite frankly, amenity spaces for the residential units. And then here there'd be parking for about 35 spaces. And then for this deal, it was about a $7.9 million total project cost. Now for this deal, I think what's important to point out is that the 17 and 21 Wells Street properties are parking lots just behind the building. And so one of the things as we were assessing the proposals that came in for this deal was we really think that there's an opportunity for growth on those parking lots. And the city, we really didn't want to see those lots remain as just parking. And it's really consistent with what we've heard over the last few years on really trying to promote density and the density across the city. So the reason this deal is structured as a purchase and sales and a ground lease is because we are agreeing to sell just 525, but retain some control over those parking lots in order to incentivize future development by this developer on those lots. So again, for the sale of just 525, it's about $425,000. Again, we're putting that into the capital stack as something that will be deferred and collected at the time of refinance. The ground lease itself for 17 and 21 Wells Street is for the initial 5 years at about around $32,000. That's what we would be collecting in taxes, with an option to purchase for $162,000. And then again, a clawback there would be that if it's not developed in that 10-year period of time, that property reverts back to the city. In this deal, approximately the investment administered that are city dollars administered by CRDA is just about $2.1 million. Again, these numbers could change slightly over time as we get closer to closing. As always, 15, 30, 15, maybe, and living wage requirements are here. We also, because this deal was a little bit easier to pencil out, we went forward with requesting the $5,000 to a city's designated entity to active recruitment, engagement, capacity building from EBWEB and local Hartford contractors. In addition, we were also able to identify about 20% of the housing to be workforce development affordable housing with a minimum of 10 years, which would be tied to the tax agreement itself. And then lastly on this deal, the two existing businesses, so long as they want to, the developer has agreed to retain them in place for at least up to 5 years. So wrapping up with this part of the deal, it is also another 10-year tax fixing agreement under the same statute. We're proposing the same thing for the first 3 years at 0% to help them through construction and stabilization. On years 4 and 5, we're at 5%, years 6 through 7 at 6%, and then from years 8 to 10 up to 7%. You'll notice here we were able to push those percentages a little bit higher because again, this deal was a little bit easier to pencil out, which therefore allows for over 10 years a collection of about almost $304,000 worth of taxes. And over time, in year 11, would be generating about $117,000 in taxes as well. And lastly, I just kindly remind you, we'd also still be collecting that pilot payment or the ground lease payment during this period of time on the 17 Wells Street property. So with that, this is just a complete summary of both deals. Combined total project costs were the developers proposing to invest about $17.3 million. This city investment ties to the $5 million that's already been identified for these deals. Total taxes that would be collected from years 1 through 10, around $523,000. At the end of that, we'd be bringing in about $253,000 a year in taxes, currently bringing in nothing. And with total units of adding 81 new residential units to the market, as well as investing in 6,700 square feet of commercial space. So with that, I'd like to kind of hand this over to Wonderworks, who is on the call, Wonderworks Construction Corp. You all may be familiar with them. They're part of the Spectra team that's done some really great work in downtown. And I'd like to ask Daniel and Joseph, if they don't mind taking a minute to talk about.
I'm wondering, Aaron, now that you're going through your presentation, whether it might be better to pause and see if council members, Madam Chair, have any questions before we go to the developers, just so it won't be too far removed from their minds. It's your call, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. I just want to share for the record that Councilwoman Wildelise Bermudez has joined us. Do any of my council colleagues have any questions? Councilman Gale?
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. Madam Chair. Aaron, I saw the workforce housing requirement on 525. I did not see one on Pearl Street. Did I miss that?
No. So what we did with 275 Pearl, again, the deal is really, it's a bit of a tighter deal. And because we really wanted to activate the firehouse space into that retail arts and entertainment venue of some sort, instead of doing the 20% or 10% affordable housing there, what we did was we requested that the developer move forward with paying for tenant fit out. So right now in the deal, it's up to about $600,000 worth of investment by the developer for the tenant fit out for a tenant that they are currently working with in order to attract for that space. And so the trade-off there was, and also keep in mind the numbers, because the numbers were tight, we were able to do 20% over at 525. And so we thought that the retail space, and was consistent with what we're trying to do with activating spaces in Hartford right now, that we thought that was a good community benefit to support businesses and small businesses in downtown Hartford.
So that money you're talking about, that's to fit out the first floor for a retail tenant?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's because we don't think the market is such that a retail tenant would come in without somebody paying for the build out.
Well, I would say this, restaurants and entertainment venues, part of the cost, there's a cost issue with making an investment in like commercial space for kitchens, right? And making an investment in the kitchen space. And so in order to incentivize and to really help start and grow that space, having the developer pay initially that fit out cost helps us attract a tenant who then they themselves wouldn't have to make that investment into the property.
Do we have any numbers on what kind of jobs we would expect out of this?
Joseph, I see you shaking your head, so I'll let you answer that.
Let me just give me a sec. So thank you. My name is Joseph Panik. I'm president of Wonderworks Construction Development Corporation. Also, I'm managing partner of several Spectra projects, which we are doing in Hartford. Am I still online?
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay. Okay. So as you know, we arrived to the city in 2012. We started with a few projects in Park Institution Plaza. We successfully completed it in 2015. We created 190 units. Since that, we did redevelopment of Spectra 101 and 111, and follow-up we acquired and remodeled 100 Trumbull. So total, now we created Spectra Community. This is our brand, Spectra, and we have now a total of 558 apartments, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, talking about what is benefits for the city. Again, we like to work in Hartford, and we'd like to continue development in Connecticut. We brought a lot of investors. I will say over 80 participants in Hartford development deals, with total probably of $23 million invested so far of private equity. The development 525 to 75%, I think, is a key place that can bring housing to the neighborhood around Bushnell Park, that's the city and state program. We're very familiar with the program. And this is, we're talking about two projects, which is exactly one block from the park. During the 24 months of development period, we'll create, which nobody experienced, about 50 to 60 jobs for local contractors, architect, designers, engineers, trade specialists, legal, clerical employees. Between this project, relatively small, we're talking about 81 apartments and retail space. Actually, without counting employment for retail space, it's going to be 3 to 5 management positions for leasing and management and maintenance of these two relatively small properties. We was able to sign letter of intent from top restaurant operator in the city, and we're not going to just build apartments and keep the vacant retail space and 275 Pearl, but we're actually planning to do at the same time. We're going to build apartments. We're planning to have this place alive and finish and open at the same time. We have commitment from operator. As far as the 545 Main Street, everybody familiar with the corner store deli and shoe repair shop. We
we establish relation with them. We keep them their rent, whatever they currently paying to the city monthly. We're not planning to renegotiate because this is like a landmark of city of Hartford, and everybody knows Cornerstone. And we definitely, as we're going to preserve the building, historic structure, we'd like to preserve original tenants in this particular building. Okay, any questions?
All right, if I can go back to my original question to make sure I'm phrasing it correctly. My understanding is that whenever the city, and certainly during my tenure, whenever the city's giving a tax fixing agreement, we're also requiring affordable housing be in the mix. And I understand that affordable housing is in the mix for 525 Main Street, but affordable housing is not in the mix for Pearl Street. And if I'm understanding what Ms. Howard said, the reason for that is the trade-off that the developer here is going to put in, I think you said a figure of up to $600,000 for tenant build-outs for the retail space on the first floor. My question is, once that space is built out, what type of employment is that going to, because the trade-off to me would seem to be then, all right, if you're not going to provide affordable housing, you're providing jobs for people in Hartford, or at least potentially for people in Hartford. So I'm just wondering, we're talking, I hear you talking about a restaurant operator. You know, are they going to be providing 10 jobs, 20 jobs, 50 jobs? Do we have some feeling for that?
So yes, we have a feeling. This restaurant operating the restaurant, cafe, entertainment space in the city of Hartford. They're going to have little different concept, but similar type of employments. Currently, at any given time in this restaurant, we have 14 employees. At any given, talking about slow hours, up to 25 during peak hours, and weekends, brunches, and everything. The place working open 7 days a week, from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And it's pretty busy. They're really successful. We did a lot of support. The reason they are there, we built the space. We spent $780,000 to build the restaurant space at 5 Constitution Plaza. Everybody maybe know the place to be concept. Very popular, always busy, and I think it's very important for the city. By the way, this place was even open, never closed even one day during the COVID. The top of, the toughest days in the COVID. They've been always, they obeyed all the rules and plastic barriers and everything. So they're great operator. Like I said, it's from 14 to 25 employees.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah,
that's about right, Councilman. It's between 15 and 25 jobs.
Okay, and then, and I understand we're not bringing in a new operator to Hartford. We're taking an existing operator. Do you have any concern that they're not going to be able to operate in both locations?
Actually, this is going to be for allegation number 4. They operate currently 3 locations. How they operate, it's a family. It's mother and father and boyfriend, future to be husband. It's 4 of them who runs management, and they're covering all the separation, and they're eager. And I heard from other people, they really want to, they're successful. They're really great operators, and they'd like to expand. So they opened the place in West Hartford. One is outside the Hartford, and this is going to be number 4 or maybe number 5 if we're not going to do it fast enough. We really like to have a shovel ground and proceed immediately. We're not just waiting for all the approvals. We already parallel. We have a bank financing. We're working with the architects, environmental, and everything else. Another point I think I want to bring in on 275 Pearl Street, this really very heavy environmental building. They have all kind of environmental issues, and we actually investing extra funds. And Aaron and William knows this was one of the discussion. We're going to put additional money to not to bring other agency or to help, which is completely city. I will call maybe responsibility, maybe not. We just we want to move forward, and we're investing all the money just to clean up. We're talking about $600,000-700,000 of environmental cleanup at the building. So it's really tough investment. That's why we are, for our investor and everything, it's not like which one is better. We told them anybody who wants to be involved, they have to be involved on both at the same range. It's different, like we have an other building. It's a different investor, but every other development we did was different type of investment. The 101 Pearl and 111 Pearl, we did it together because it was not easy to separate. For us, we're pretty good sized developers in New York City and Connecticut. And for us also important to do them together, both projects. We've been working on 525 still with the Pedro Cigarra. We submitted the first RFP. We've been shown the property. It took many, many years until new administration finally decided to look at this again. And I think we submitted number 3 RFP for the same project. When 275 came on RFP, was issued, we immediately make a lot of sense to do it together, and we're looking for other projects, other development opportunity in the city. And we're discussing and negotiating different parcels in the city of Hartford, actually in downtown Hartford at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilman Gill, I'm sorry.
If I may, I'd like to go back to Ms. Howard or Director Matthews. And I'd like to know what other proposals you received for these properties. I don't know if this was an RFP process or if this was just somebody making a proposal on these buildings.
If I may, Aaron, it was the IFP process, Councilman, and we got, I believe, I recall, 3 proposals, and no proposal really filled the vision that the city had for the parcel. We wanted, as Aaron alluded to earlier, something that would be an arts and entertainment kind of venue with some housing. We didn't get all that. So for a while, we tried to marry 2 proposals, one the works proposal and another firm from New Haven. We tried to marry them together. One had an arts entertainment kind of piece, and one the works also obviously had housing. That marriage, so to speak, fell apart. So then we entered negotiations with Wonder Works, and we found another restaurant manager that was fairly successful, that we thought we could get in that particular neighborhood, close to the park, a restaurant that would be of high quality, that would be attractive to the people in the downtown area, and we also would have housing. Now, as Aaron alluded to earlier, it was tough trying to make the deal work, and it was difficult. So as part of the deal we did with the Wonder Works, we gave them the responsibility to do the build out, because it's very tough, as you know, Councilman, for businesses to start out new, particularly restaurant, all the costs associated with building a restaurant. So they agreed to do the build out. We agreed to allow them to put what we would consider to be market rate units in the firehouse in the attempt to make the numbers work. I want to really stress to you, each of you on the council, we spent 1.5 years trying to make this work, coming up with 5, 6, 7 different proposals. It was a real tough deal financially to make work, and we felt this was our best shot. Giving the developer an opportunity to package both these deals together, coming up with a build out for the restaurant, roughly 4,000 square feet, allowing them to do the environmentals on their own nickel, and that's where we are. John, I hope I answered your question, Councilman.
No, yes, you did. Thank you. And Madam Chair, I do have several other questions, but I'm happy to yield and come back.
Absolutely. Councilwoman Rossetti.
Thank you, Council President. Through you, I am not a voting member, but I do feel the need to say something here. And thank you, Mr. Kleinberg. I hope I'm saying it correctly.
Correct.
you know, for thinking about Hartford, but I also have sat in many meetings in different hats. And, you know, I would be remiss to not say the hat I wear during the day. I manage a homeless shelter. How many times will we continue to say, we can't do it, we can't afford it, we don't have it, we can't add it? We need housing for people. I just heard our development, Charles saying, and again, doing a great job, but we're going to make it attractive for downtown. We're more than downtown. We're neighborhoods, and we need housing for people who don't have access to housing. We need all the neighborhoods to be attractive to what's coming in. We need the jobs to be open to people who have barriers to employment. And that means sometimes we have to make some stipulations to say, you will hire some people that maybe aren't hired. But I have heard this enough that I am tired of hearing it. And I understand. I'm a business person too. I run a nonprofit, but that's business, okay? I know what it's like. And sometimes you have to take a risk. And I know we're too far down the road, but you know what? We're a city of neighborhoods, and we're not just downtown, and we owe it more to the rest of the people in the city. That's my comment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rossetti. Mr. Kleinberg, you're on mute. There you go.
Okay, thank you. What I want to add, you know, we understand what is market rate and what is the affordable rate. We understand very clearly. We are understand we are things support without even to be called affordable. Our apartments are affordable in each and every of our buildings, which is, and if you think on this particular building, 275 Pearl Street, our rents start from $933 on the studios and $1,200 on one bedrooms. But the average rent of
How much is it on one bedrooms?
about $1,200.
Okay.
And this is average rent per unit is $1,163, which I don't know, we can go, or we're not trying to speed up the process, and really it's to make sure, I don't know, but our market rate, I believe, I don't know, with the no city of Hartford too good, we build affordable housings. I can say it by what we did of 558 units which we built. I would consider them not affordable. We have all kind of working force live in our buildings. Okay, you can. So I don't know. Without even destination or destination is affordable, we are affordable. We provide affordable living for the residents of Hartford.
So, Mr. Kleinberg, so $1,200 for one bedroom. How many 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and do you have 4 bedrooms?
No, we don't have. Based on our experience in Hartford from 2012, and as I mentioned, our occupancy, actually we practically have no empty units. They're all pre-leased, and our occupancy 96 to 98%. Our experience show we're not building 2 bedrooms, and we're not building 3 bedrooms in the city. We are doing studios and 1 bedroom. Okay, even I don't know, on 100 Trumbull, we have too many 2 bedrooms. Actually, we have to convert them into 1 bedroom and studio in order to be fully occupied. We just
how much is the rent for a 2 bedroom?
On 100 Trumbull 2 bedroom is $1,800, starting at $1,800.
$1,800 for a 2 bedroom.
Correct.
Councilwoman Bermudez, you have the floor, followed by Councilwoman Surgeon.
Thank you. Let me lower my hand here. So I have a couple of questions, and they're in reference to what some of the council members, Councilman Rossetti mentioned, and Councilman Gale as well. And so I'm wondering if there were only 3 RFP proposals that were received, what is the minimum that requirement in terms of the city receiving RFP proposals? Is there a minimum? Because I've noted that certain projects, the minimum threshold is lowered. compared to other projects. And so I'm wondering if across the board streamline, if there's a minimum requirement for RFP proposals that are received. So as to receive more, like I've noted that in other projects, the minimum threshold is lowered, and then in others it's increased. And you can either have very minimal, very few applicants for the RFP, or you could have a bigger pool. And sometimes you can cast your pool even wider if the RFP is reopened. So I'm wondering from.
Aaron, feel free to jump in. Obviously, you would rather not have one. You want to make sure you have more than one. I believe, Aaron, if I recall, we only got 3 for this one. And we didn't go, when you get 3 or you get 4, if you in fact think that pool or that submission may be too small, then your only alternative would be to reject them all and go back out on the street, maybe tweak your IFP a little bit and hope you get more. In this case, my recollection is we looked at the 3. And as I said earlier, Councilwoman, at the end of the day, we didn't think any of the 3 really met the vision that the city felt it had for that site. So we tried to do a marriage, and the marriage didn't work out. And then we enter into negotiation with Wonderworks, and we found a restaurant that might be interested in going to the site. And that's how we got where we are now. I don't think we have any fixed number on IFPs to my knowledge. Obviously, if we get 1, we'll probably go back out. If we get 2 or more, we'll take a look and see whether or not it makes sense to enter in there's some kind of negotiations with one or the other. That's normally how we work in the city, to my knowledge. Aaron, did I miss anything there?
No, I would just add that there's a difference between a request for proposals and like bidding for contract work. And so when we put out a request for proposal, that's getting put out by our procurement team. We put it on the website and we put it out there for basically anybody and everyone to respond to that request for that proposal. So it is a little bit different, but to Charles's point, it really all depends on what we receive back. So we open it up for a period of time, and it all depends on what we get back and who wants to submit proposals on whatever that request is for. And I guess the only thing I would add is, and I would have to look back on these specifically, but at times if we are aware of what we may or may not have received, we haven't opened them, we may extend the timeline that the proposals are out there for to try to attract more proposals requests to come in. But there's no real set standard on how long that is or when that's done. But we have done that in the past to try to attract and solicit more responses.
Okay, thank you. And then the second part of it was, and I want to thank Councilwoman Rossetti for what you just expressed a little earlier. And so to that point, we are a city that obviously is 80% renters. We are a city where the majority of the people don't live in the downtown area because they can't afford it, even if it's called affordable housing. And so I'm wondering, and we keep having this conversation over and over again in terms of, well, how can we create more affordable housing? How can we have better opportunities for housing for the majority of our residents? And so I'm wondering, at what point is it decided upon who's going to end up being selected, right? Like how is it that certain types of properties will be favored for certain types of development rather than concentrating on the need that's obviously right in front of us right now in terms of calling for more affordable housing for our residents. And so that's something that is a big question that we ask ourselves all the time. And yet here we are today, and we're talking about, having it be through a developer and not having it be through, I'm going to throw out a name out there. How about the Hartford Housing Authority? I know you would have to recuse yourself, Molly, in terms of responding to this one, but why not? Like, why is that not a possibility?
I'm sorry, make sure I understand why, as relates to the Housing Authority. What was that question? I missed it. I'm sorry. Help.
Yes. So when we're talking about developing properties, why is it that it has to go through the standard route of a developer and not have it be say an Hartford Housing Authority? Why can it be a different creative way of being able to create affordable housing within our city? And this goes back to the statement that Councilwoman Rossetti mentioned a bit earlier, which I'm in agreement with, by the way.
And me say this.
Can I interject for a minute? I have one more question, and perhaps you can answer this question along with what you are going to answer to Councilwoman Rossetti. When Mr. Charles Matthews, when you say it didn't meet the vision of the city, or it didn't meet, what the city envisioned, who is making these visions?
Thank you,
That is my
Council
question.
President. Thank you.
Whose vision is this?
Well, listen, your Department of Development Services, we talk to council members, we talk to neighborhood people, we talk to developers. We, as best we can, we say to ourselves, all right, we have a old fire station. What would be a good thing at an old fire station right down the street from Bushnell Park? And we don't profess to get it right all the time, but we send out an RFP and we say to folks, we have an old firehouse right next to Bushnell Park. Give us your best ideas for what might happen there. We assume, based on our prior experience, council folks, that it would be some housing there. We don't know what else will be there, but we say to ourselves, well, based on our experience, maybe it might be some arts and entertainment stuff there because it's so close to the park. It might be some artsy, So we throw that stuff out there to see what may come in. And we try to tell developers in the RFP, be as creative and out there as you can. And the developers will come back with a package that we will open up and we'll say to ourselves, that doesn't seem like what we were really looking for. Is that sustainable? Will that pencil out? Oh, this is only housing. There's no artsy or entertainment kind of stuff. So we play that whole thing with ourselves to try to get the best possible proposal in front of us. There's no right or wrong of doing that. But let me go back, if you don't mind, there's this whole question. Almost every single project we build in town where there is city money, we try to have affordable housing components in it. Almost every single project we do in downtown or the neighborhoods, anywhere else, the housing authority, as many of you know, they deal with moderate and affordable housing. They build that all over the city and they do a great job at that. What we try to do in our part, if we talk about Randy Salvatore doing parcel C or Randy Salvatore doing parcel B, anything we build downtown at all, just to talk about downtown, we try to have affordable housing component. To be truthful before this council, I'm so concerned that we're so focused on what we may call affordable housing or workforce housing. I'm trying to find more ways to do home ownership opportunities, not to the exclusion of affordable housing, but we just need more of our folks to also be homeowners. And what can we do to stimulate home ownership opportunities in the city? So I worry about that too. But to somehow think that, and I know no one meant this, that somehow we in development services or the administration is not super focused on affordable housing. We are. And every single deal we do with city resources in it, we say to developers, you have to have affordable housing. What's going to be that percentage? 20%, 10%. We always try to do that, council. We always try to do that. Madam.
And I understand what you're saying, and thank you for that, Mr. I. Charles Matthews. But as Mr. Kleinberg said, he has 2-bedroom units that are $1,800. And like Councilwoman Bermudez said, 80% of the city of Hartford are renters. Well, if you have a Section 8 voucher, the $1,800 2-bedroom unit disqualifies you for applying for that apartment. So how do we find ways where everyone is inclusive and we can help everyone in the city and everyone feels included and not excluded? How do we work around that going forward?
Can I say something? So we're talking about, we don't have any 2-bedroom units in our proposed developments. I was mentioning
And the prior ones, you said that you only
100
had
Trumbull.
one studios and 1 bedrooms, because your 2 bedrooms, you had to convert back into 1 bedrooms because they were not doing so good renting, correct?
Not doing, because you don't see too many strollers on the city of Hartford. It's not like something, we have put foot in the ground. We have over 1,000 residents in the properties which created, which I understand we built 560 out of 2,500 residential units in downtown Hartford. So I think by 20 to 25% of inventory of housing. Yeah, we're not really, it was built, we only did some conversion of 100 Trumbull because it was really not, it was standing vacant.
What happened was we had acquired the building with 2-bedroom units in it. We never actually built the 2-bedroom units, and we had converted those into 1 bedrooms and studios. So yeah, and those remaining 2-bedroom units, it makes up like 1% of our portfolio, less than 1% of our portfolio here in Hartford. So yeah, we're all about the studios and 1 bedrooms and keeping them at a rate that's affordable for the workforce.
The town of Hartford is not ready for families yet, I believe. Like you said, there is no grocery stores and on and on and on. But I think we put a lot of foot on the ground in downtown Hartford, and I think we're very proud of what we achieved in 9 years since we started our first development. And I think our building is great, premier, and it's, again, I repeat, very affordable.
Thank you. Councilman Clark, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. If you could, thank you for the developers also too for the presentation. Now, correct me if I heard wrong, but the going rate for 1 bedroom is $1,200. Is that correct?
400, I believe it's 1 bedroom on one of the projects, and one of them. It's 275 and 525. Richard, actually, yeah, similar, the same on 525. Yeah, actually, on 525, the studios start from $873 studios. So this in the range, we know the market, and that's what actually is much below what we have in one level per street. Our studios start from 1,100 and up. So this, we didn't compare, we just build different, and it's very important. I didn't mention, I know it's important for this conversation, but we build tremendous amenities in all 4 projects. All our Spectra residents, they share building. Basically, with the key, they walk into from one building to another, playing basketball in one of them. So basically what we're doing, we created Spectra community, and we want to add to this portfolio within walking distance, heavy amenities packages, which is on current buildings. And of course, each building which we build gonna have their amenity package on their own, also shared with the other Spectra buildings.
Thank you for that. So so the rent is just going to be all market rate, correct?
275 per all. I don't know what to compare with. We really don't know. We understand. I didn't start comparing. I know what its rent starts from, $870. I believe it's probably in line with affordable requirements.
Okay, and a part of it, usually when we do lately, when we've been doing a tax fixing agreement, we've been discussing what portions are outlined regarding the community benefits agreement. So what type of provisions are packaged in the community benefits agreement?
Aaron, why don't you answer that for 525?
Sure. So for 525, we have it set up where we always require the 15, 30, 15. So it's the minority represent the 15% minority, that's a requirement. The 30% Hartford residency goal, and the 15% trade workers, women and trade workers goal. And then we also require them to follow living wage requirements. In 525, they're also going to be putting aside $5,000 to a city's designated entity. to support active recruitment, engagement, building successes in the Maybe Weeby local Hartford contractors. And then we also were able to do the 20% affordable housing on that, as well as retaining the existing tenants for 5 years.
Okay, so the sorry, I'm gonna lower my hand. But the existing tenants at 525 are going to remain.
Yes.
What Director Matthews, you mentioned about a restaurant, high quality restaurant being located at the old firehouse. Are you able to share? Excuse me. Are you able to share who that restaurant owner is at this time?
Well, I was not prepared to share it, but I believe the developer shared it earlier. Did I hear him say that?
I'm sorry, I missed it. He did?
Yeah.
Okay, would you mind repeating that again?
Yeah, he has a letter of interest from Place to Be, and they're gonna occupy 4,000 square feet with a new theme. If you know those folks at Place to Be, they're very exciting. They have great ideas. They got a lot of energy, and we feel certain that they can take that 4,000 square feet and really turn it into something exciting right there by the park. So they have LOI and they're going to move in. As you heard earlier, part of the deal we made with the developer is they would do all the build out. And for the space, which is always a big item for a new restaurant trying to get started, and they would do, their numbers will also reflect any environmental issues they may find on the site. So that's where we are with the firehouse, 275 Pearl.
And Charles, I would also add, I'm sorry, Councilman Clark, that I would just also add that because we are using that as the community benefit in this deal, there will be a land use restriction for that. So the last thing we'd want to have happen, I'll throw that out there, is the city has a developer put $600,000 into a tenant fit out and then turns around in a few years and says, well, that's not really working out and we're just going to put a bank in that space. Well, we're structuring it so that that can't happen. We're structuring it that if they're going to make the investment and the community benefit in this deal is activating a really awesome, cool space for arts, restaurant, entertainment, that we want to make sure it stays that way. Really within reason, but that it stays that way.
Right, thank you. Now, is the Place to Be, is the Place to Be that's currently located downtown next to the Spectra building, are they going to remain there or are they going to?
Oh, they're gonna remain where they are. They're just gonna have another.
So they're gonna have two downtown locations.
That's right, another downtown location. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Now, how many has it been discussed as to any type of jobs being set aside for Hartford residents as part of the community benefits agreement?
Well, I don't know this precisely, but I think based on their restaurant right down the street from where we are, I suspect it'll be somewhere between 15 to 20 some jobs, full and part-time jobs at their site. I don't have an exact number, but just looking at what they're doing now, probably somewhere around 15 to 20 jobs.
Yeah, maybe more because it's 2 shifts. It's not 1 shift. So, but I said before, it's at any given time, and I check with them, and I know for sure, it's at least 14 employees at any given time in this space.
Okay.
And it's a 2 shifts.
2 shift space. Okay.
7 days a week, so it's maybe 3 shifts.
Okay, all right. And just for the sake of communicating this to the public, how are these type of tax fixing agreements put together? Because really, I've received phone calls about, this was a quote unquote sweetheart deal, and I'm not alleging that this was, but this is just a perception that has been placed out from members of the community and possibly those that actually look to bid on this. And I was told that there was other developers that bidded on this project before. So can you just walk us through how these deals are put together? Is it based upon the financing from the developer, whether it's a single developer or whether it's a group of developers that are putting their funds together? Can you just please explain that?
Before you do that, Mr. Charles Matthew, Councilwoman Bermudez, are you still with us? on this call. So we have scheduled a public hearing meeting. And I don't know if you wanted to continue the conversation and have the public meeting start at 7:15, have David log on. Or some of the council members that are on here will move over to the public hearing, or if it's okay with you, would we be able to start the public hearing at 7:15? How would you like to address your public hearing? The members that are on this committee have to be on the public hearing.
Was that for me?
Yeah.
One moment, Mr. I. Charles Matthew. So if you can connect with behind the scenes with David and let him know how you'd like to proceed.
The public hearing is being chaired by Councilman Mictum, not Councilwoman Bermudez.
Okay, and what other members of the public hearing should be on there?
You're scheduled to be on there, Councilwoman Rossetti, and I'd have to check on the last two.
Okay, that's fine. I will continue on over here, and then I'll move over there when we finish here. Okay, Mr. I. Charles Matthews. Thank you, David. You have the floor.
Oh, I thought, Aaron, would you take them through the RFP process, then I'll chime in?
So, so two parts. So with the RFP process, we put it out there and we asked folks to respond to a proposal. And what we're looking at is we are looking at the capital stack and the financing stack, and whether or not whoever submits on the proposal, whether they request for any type of subsidy or any type of request, right? So that varies depending upon the proposal and what we receive. So from the proposal standpoint, we don't say, I think this needs to be clarified, we do not say that we do not allow it. It's always part of, we actually try to provide a level of flexibility at this point, to be fair, because these deals have been so challenging to pencil out that we actually want to open it up as best as we can to see what gets thrown out there. But at the end of the day, when the city makes a decision as to what is going to pencil out, we do look at a capital stack and a financing stack to see whether it really makes sense and whether the deal can work and how that deal works out. Now, specifically to a tax fixing agreement, what we do is we do try to pencil out the deal, and we try to see how debt coverage and debt service is carried out throughout the lifetime of, let's say, the first 10 years. So in this is under the state statute for 10 years. Anything we do, by the way, with CRDA, we always underwrite. So they're always looking at how does the capital stack work? What is their debt service? Are the taxes, can we get a little bit more out of the taxes? You know, what's their return on their investment? That sort of thing, and kind of a balancing act. And almost like a science to look at it. So it's not always a set formula. We really do look at how can we increase and maximize the tax revenue over that period of time. So if you look at these two deals specifically, you'll see that because the deals are easier or a little bit better at 525, we're able to increase that gross revenue a little bit more over that 10-year increment. Where at 275, we were a little bit lower and we increased it up to that 10%. Not 10%, but up to that 10-year. And for fairness, I'd also say, getting into the weeds, Charles hates when I do this, but from a financing standpoint and a lender, they're actually not going to want to see a major jump in taxes from year 10 to 11. And so that's one of the reasons why you see those gross revenues increment over time, because it's difficult and challenging for a lender or a developer to actually refinance out when there's such variability in that tax number. And so that's why you see us trying to increase that over time. But every deal is different. We look at every component. We look at their return on investment, their debt ratios, all of that to make sure that the deal can still work within reason.
Thank you for that. And one final question, because I know that there is time is of the essence. This particular project, because I know that we have a tax abatement committee. Is this required? This type of deal required to go through the tax abatement committee before it reaches council?
These are not under the. And Howard, please do correct me. Only the housing abatement programs go through the tax abatement committee. These 12-65B, these the CRDA tax fixing agreements are not required to go through that committee. Howard?
That's right. I'm not Howard, but that's right.
I'm not I, Charles, but he is right.
Thank you. The two attorneys have spoken. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you're on
Thank
mute.
you, Councilwoman Surgeon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Ms. Howard, and thank the developers for coming to meet with us. Can we start, Aaron, with 275?
Sure.
Structured deal to put together due to it's been an old fire station and all the environmental issues that went along with it.
Sure.
Looking at your term sheet, under the purchase agreement area, it talked about transferring the property for $360,000, but it won't be paid. Let me make sure I'm understanding that. When is that going to be done? At refinancing or it's sold? Could
Sure.
you explain that for me, please?
Sure. So what we did was we put a value to the sale of the property, but again, to help and make the numbers work, what we said was we would defer that payment, push that payment out. And since there are dollars that we can be part of that underwriting piece, the idea would be that we collect that value at the time of either refinance or a future sale of the property in the event that there's an actual profit in order for the city to generate that value back. What that does for the deal is it reduces the overall total project cost and makes the numbers work a little bit better in order for us to pencil this out to make it attractive for an investor. And that's why we did that. So both deals are set up that way to do so.
Yeah, because I believe when I went to 525, you did have that either at sale or at financing.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the 275, they'll take care of their remediation.
Yes, and that's about 700, a little bit more, $700,000 worth of environmentals there that need to be addressed.
As far as the tax fixing agreement, did we pass a couple of months ago building out for restaurants where the property owner could take, and I don't remember the name of what state program we used.
Sure.
Can that be used also, since we're talking about restaurants and build out? And so would that be a part of the tax fixing agreement, or is that on top of this tax fixing agreement, should they wish to take advantage of that build out for restaurants?
So I would say that, yes, we did pass something to support, the intent was to support businesses. And the way it was structured was under a 10-year that would kind of relay through the property owner by looking at what the value of their personal property was. In this deal, I think that this, because it's tied to an adaptive reuse and a historic reuse of the building, I think the tax deal that's on the table here is a lot better than what would be otherwise under that program. And since the developer is making a significant investment in the property, it's a very good legal question. I might defer to Howard, but I would think that we would only want to go forward with the deal that's proposed here and forego any opportunity for the business themselves to come to the city for a secondary tax fixing agreement. I don't even know if they legally can do that, but I would say stick with this deal and not go forward with what was just recently passed by council.
So if that's the case, could you build that into the agreement? Should we approve that so they either stay with a tax fixing agreement and not go for that other tax credit with the restaurant portion of it?
I don't see any harm if we wanted to just say that we would forego any other basically say that the property owner can't benefit from any other kind of tax agreements, that this deal that gets passed here would be the one that's on the record. I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Would the Mr. Kleinberg,
Yes.
did he understand my statement or what I was suggesting?
He may not. So briefly, really quickly, the city just passed a 10-year tax fixing agreement program to support businesses who the business themselves that are activating spaces within our properties. And what it does is, because tax abatements or tax fixing agreements are tied to the property owner, the way it's structured is that the amount of the benefit would be based on whatever the business's personal property taxes are. That would translate into a lease where you would provide that reduction in the lease for the business. Again, I think that this deal that we have on the table is a lot better. And because there's a $600,000 tenant fit out being made by the property owner to the business, my personal opinion is you're better off doing this than foregoing this deal and then allowing for the business itself.
I agree.
Just want that to be on the table, Erin, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. Now, for the 275, we're talking just to make the financing work. The city is going to be putting up 2.4 million through SERTA.
So it's about 2.8 through SERTA.
About 2, okay.
For 275.
Oh, okay. All right. So about 2.8. All right. So educate me here. So the city selling the property for 360 approximately, but won't recoup that funds until it's refinanced or sold in the future. But yes, so the city is also putting up 2.8 million. So would I not say the city is actually putting up, over 3 million for,
Well, the property does become a note. The mortgage, the sale of the property does become a note. And one thing I would say is the deal that's on the table right now from a financing structure, we are actually trying to figure out how to get this refinanced sooner so that that 2.8 million of the city dollars gets brought back into that pool of funds to support future development elsewhere. So I would say that, yes, it's 2.8. And it's additionally the note on the sale of the property as like a separate note. But the goal would be to actually try to get the developer to refinance out sooner rather than later in order to support growth.
Is there a time period here? It's sooner more than later, because I'm looking at this for the due diligence and financing period. It didn't kind of give me any idea what that time period would be.
The due diligence, again, this is for the sale. So for the due diligence period, it would be for the actual purchase and sales to make sure you have the commitment. And then it would be structured in, it's based on how the developer is going to try to refinance. I can't remember the exact timelines. It's somewhere between 9 and 11 years, I believe, or
I believe we have a 7 years financing, including 3 years of development. So after 3 years, it's gonna construction loan will go into the permanent financing for another 4 years. And then we have one extension option of 5 years. But our plan, of course, to refi in the 7 years.
And because these dollars are being administered by CRDA, it goes through the CRDA process for underwriting as well. And CRDA is basically, for all intents and purposes, handling these dollars no differently than they would state bond money, which would go through that formal process as well. So the financing terms may change slightly as we get closer through the due diligence to closing. And that's all part of the underwriting process of making these deals truly pencil out at the end of the day.
Okay. But so make sure I understand it. So we're talking about this part of money won't come back to the city for maybe about 7 years from now.
The money will go back into a fund in order to support development. But yes, the goal would be to try to get that done, try to force the refinance on the developer at a period in time. Instead of saying it's a 20-year or a 30-year loan where it's take 30 years to pay back, our goal is to being in the position that we are to force a refinance within that 7 to 9 year period. So our dollars come back while they refinance with another institute or lending institute with the remaining
7 to 9 years.
Yeah.
And how do you force something like that?
It's just the way it's structured. It's part of the way they structure it for underwriting with CRDA. I don't want to pretend that I'm a big finance person, so I don't want to get misquoted here. But it's typical in a lot of these deals where there's first investment and then a developer will try to refinance it out in order to restructure their deals and their portfolios. Joseph, I don't know if you want to weigh in a little bit.
Yeah, I can wait. We have involvement of CRDA funds on so far all the 4 projects we did. Believe it or not, at the first one, 5 Constitution Plaza, we pay off CRDA loan at 3.5. Okay, the other projects stay in progress. I mean, we finished only them in 2020, and one of them we just start leasing in May of 2020, which is very recent. And we luckily 157 units on the project Spectra 101 absorption was really tough in the midst of a pandemic, but we was able, because of our approach, leased all the units, probably 70% by end of December, and now we're fully occupied. And of course, we have certain provision at 3.5. Right now, we're on the permanent financing, and the value of the property growing, and of course, the rates are cheap. So we're constantly watching what's happened in the industry, and especially banking industry, and with the time going to be correct, right? Of course, because Prim Refi not only take care of CRDA or other agency, number one, but also bring boost to our investors who actually, waiting for this refi to get. I'm just one briefly on this project. I mean, talking about how much money developer is making. Our projection actually in the 10 years average per year, it's only 3% on 275 Pearl Street and 5% on 525 Main Street. We're not talking about millions of zillion dollars.
Could you repeat again for me, sir? I didn't quite that. Could you repeat that?
Cash on cash.
Uh-huh.
And whatever invested on a 10 years average for 275, it's only 3.1% cash on cash return.
Mm-hmm.
On 525, it's average 5.6% cash on cash return over 10 years. This is the projections. So you understand, we're raising money as we're going into the, which we're gonna bring before any other money gonna kick in, the city or state or banks. And actually our investors expect a return from the day one they invested. And we understand we're gonna be 2 to 3 years in a development phase until really we're gonna start see real revenue and gonna start catch up with investors. Our pref return, which we're offering to every investor in the city of Hartford, is 7%. But everybody knows it's 7% pref, but it's not mandatory. If we're gonna make to 7%, it's great. But we're gonna start from minus 21% at the end of the 3rd year, and we have to catch up. So that's why a lot of people want to invest in income-producing properties, and you've seen all over the state and the world. We're brave enough, and we have a good track record by at some point bring our investors happy. And we have investors from all over the world, from Japan, from Israel, from Poland, and on and on. We bring them actually, like I mentioned before, we have 80 investors in city of Hartford who invested their funds. Of course, they're investing with us in New York City. It's a little different numbers, but we happen to call the Hartford developers friendly. Everything gets done much faster than in any other cities. We're working in Buffalo, we're working in Rochelle, we're working in Stamford. We happen to be like Hartford, and we like to continue to do developments.
I know I don't have very much time, so maybe 1 or 2 more questions, Madam Chair, then I'll be finished. So back to you, Aaron, the developing or the financing. So between the tax credit, what is a senior loan? Is that the 2.8, the city's money?
No, senior loan is on 275 is $3 million. And I can say probably provided by, we have a commitment signed with the.
Okay.
Liberty Bank.
And the
Liberty
CRDA.
Bank.
With the Liberty Bank, right? With Liberty Bank and $3 million for 520, vice versa. $3.2 million for 525 and $3 million for 275 Pearl. And again, the bank, who's not really entertaining to such a small loan, the reason they gave us commitment because of our track record, our experience working in the city and city of Hartford, and because we're doing this together, the 2 loans. So basically, it's separate deals.
So because of time, just one couple questions. So how much is the developer equity in this?
Developer
275.
Okay, on 275, developers equity is, and I'll tell you in a second. Okay, actually, I know. It's actually what we're raising for 275, it's 1,850,000. And for 525, we're raising 1,350,000. Total of $3.2 million of investment in these two projects. And we already prepared investment memorandum for our investors based on success of this meeting or any other meetings which are supposed to be done. And we're already investing. We already hired attorneys, architects, designers, mechanical engineers, structural engineer, environmental people. We actually want to be ahead of everybody. We're not just waiting. So of course, we're going to be very disappointed this is not going to go through.
I just have one last question because I know there's a lot of council persons still have questions. So I'm just going to, just one last question and then waive my time. One of the community give back, Aaron, there was a $5,000
Yes, for 525.
to pay up to 5,000 to support active recruitment, engagement, capacity building. And so what does that mean?
We've done that in the past in a bunch of other deals where we do like a set aside we try to support an entity that supports workforce development, minority contractors, that sort of thing. So we've done that in the past, and so we just went ahead and did the same thing. So at the time of closing, they'll be required to provide the city a check for that $5,000 to be applied to that organization. That has not been actually confirmed in this, but will be an entity of the choosing of the administration.
Okay. Okay. I've got more questions, but I think I will. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I'm sure there's other council members who've got lots of questions also. At the end, if there's any time left over, if I can finish my questions, I would appreciate it, ma'am.
Absolutely, Councilwoman Surgeon. Councilman Sanchez.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I had trouble earlier. So through you, Madam Chair, I appreciate the presentation from Development Services and as well as your company, Mr. Kleinberg. So my question, I'm just going to go back to the basic. The majority of the question I had has been answered, but I want to go back to the basic, to the original RFP. It's my understanding that this original RFP required for a developer to purchase the property at cost. And well, let me finish, please.
I'm sorry.
So to purchase a property at cost, come up with a plan, and then get their own financing, right? In my opinion, this is a very lucrative negotiation, contract. So when this RFP went out, apparently you stated that there were 3 bidders. And unfortunately, it did not work out. But we were able to negotiate with WonderWorks this agreement. And I'd like to know, were the other 3 bidders, did you reach out to them to offer them the same type of negotiation?
Aaron, you should stop, but you should know, Councilman, WonderWorks was one of the 3 bidders.
Okay.
So, just so it's clear, but as I said earlier, and jump in when you, in our view, there was not one submission that was fully satisfactory. We wanted to have something more than housing there. We wanted to have something more than arts and entertainment there. So as I said earlier, we tried to marry WonderWorks and a firm out of New Haven, dealing with the performing arts. And we thought that was a great marriage. But like many marriages, it collapsed. So once that marriage collapsed, then we enter into negotiating with the remaining bidder we thought had the most value. And that was WonderWorks at the time. And then they brought in a place to be, and the whole deal kind of came together. And for the record, just so we're clear, this deal is not particularly rich. We've had richer deals. This is not a rich deal. It may seem that way, but I gotta say to you, and I say to other council members, this was a hard deal to put together because it would not pencil out. But Aaron, add anything you like.
Yeah, so what I'd like to share, I just pulled up, so a couple things. So there's two different deals and they both were put out for RFP. 525 received 3 responses and 275 for clarity, because we keep mixing between the two deals. 275 had 4 responses.
Okay.
And to talk through how that process works is, and I apologize, but to start off, we actually have to make these things as flexible as possible. And so we say sale, ground lease, whatever it may be, and it's written in the RFP that goes out. So we leave it open-ended, however that looks. We do put a fair market value, which is based off of the value that's on the city's assessment page, but we don't say what that purchase offer price is. For all intents and purposes, an RFP process requires the responder to put their best foot forward in putting together a proposal as to what they think they can do and how they could have a realistic proposal to the city. So however they want to structure it, whatever their asks are, that is open-ended in the RFP process. In each RFP, we also identify what the ranking will be when they're reviewed. And so when we have an RFP process, we put together a ranking sheet that's based off of what's actually in the RFP. So like for 525, just because I have it in front of me, we looked at like 5 different things to rank each proposal on. So one was on the completeness of the submission, purchase price, quality of the development proposal and proposed design, responsiveness to the goals of the RFP and appropriateness of the proposed use relative to the surrounding community, and the experience and financial capacity of the development team. A selection team is created prior to opening and looking at all of those bids, and we rank based upon a discussion and folks of saying, what do you think, how do we weight each of those categories as we review our proposals? Then once that team has done so and we've ranked the ratings, the team then goes and reviews the proposals and comes up with their own rating sheets on how each individual person rates each proposal. And then we look at those proposals and we combine and average out those scores to see where that ranks out. WonderWorks ranked out top for the 525 and for the 275. But again, with 275 at the time, to Charles's point, it didn't exactly meet the appropriate, what we were looking for with pushing forward with the arts and entertainment piece at the time, which is during the 275, why we revisited and was subject to and reserved the right to negotiate and look at each of those deals. That's how they're set up in the proposals and how they're written out and how they're put out publicly.
Can I just add something to Erin, because she said, if I can just have, this is Superintendent Davis. When Erin talked about the weighting criteria is determined before anything is open. So they don't even know what's in the package when they determine what the weights are on the relative pieces.
So question, so the first or the original RFP, was there a dollar amount to the property?
No.
You just mentioned purchase price.
We put, everyone offers a purchase price, or they may offer, believe it or not, plenty of times folks want it for nothing. We'll get deals like that plenty of times. But we weight purchase price as part of that deal when it's written in the RFP. If we look at purchase price as a factor, then it will be part of that rating sheet.
So it was part of the RFP, the purchase price.
If they put a purchase price, yes. I guess where I'm clarifying is we didn't say that it had to be a certain minimum, that it had to be a certain number. We said that we would rank whatever they offered us for price as part of that rating sheet.
Did we have purchase price or market value, Aaron?
Okay, so because
we did not say it had to be market value. We just put purchase price as a rating criteria. We did not say it had to be a certain value.
So in other words, whoever bids have to put in a bid to purchase, but
correct.
but this deal here this property was given, was it given for $1?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
What were these two properties each offered at $1?
No.
No, okay. Okay. So it seems to me at the end of the day, after 10 years, we're going to receive approximately $500,000 in tax revenue, if I remember the presentation.
Between the two, yes.
Right. Other than that, the funds that CERTA is going to administer, there was two amounts. There was the 2.8 for one property, and I forgot what's the other figure, but it was a couple of $1 million for the other property, right? So they're administering it. Is that funding coming from the state?
No. So earlier this year, City Council authorized the mayor to move about $5 million of funds to CRDA. And so instead of using bond money, it was an opportunity for us to actually have more resources to promote development in the city. We're using that $5 million for these two deals specifically, but they will be managed no differently than the way in which CRDA manages state bond money.
All right, and that and those funding will return to the city eventually.
They'll return into a fund for development that will sit with CRDA for future development deals across the city.
Okay, and then the tax abatement at the end of, if I remember right, okay, the first 3 years, they pay no taxes.
Yes, during construction and stabilization.
And then, okay, and then following the fourth, on the 4th years when they pay a small percentage until we get to the 10th year, which is the full tax amount. So, and to your point, Director Matthews, you're right. This is not a rich, deal when it comes to the city of Hartford, but this is a lucrative deal when it comes to a developer that's looking to invest in the city, which I appreciate. But I just feel that we have local developers that could have taken advantage of the same agreement that was created.
Can I say this? The process was an open process. Any developers could have bid on the process. Every developer who lives in the city or operates in the cities know fully well if you're doing the deal downtown, at some point CRDA will be in the deal. Most deals downtown, there's CRA involvement. So any developer could have sent a proposal to us. We're not restrictive anyway, and he or she would have been considered. I'm a little puzzled by the notion that some developers are claiming that but for the fact that we're now dealing with WonderWorks and others, and we have city money in the deal or CRA money in the deal, had they known this, they would have submitted a proposal. That's always the case 9 times out of 10. Always the case.
And I understand that Director Charles Matthew, but I never stated that a developer reached out to me to.
No, I'm not saying that. Listen, I've been around a while. I'm hearing all this stuff through the grapevine, Councilman. Okay. And I'm just throwing it out there since we're all being honest here.
And Charles, if I may, these deals, I think you heard from the developer, the cash on cash. These deals really aren't lucrative. There's this idea that they may have this subsidy and they may have a tax fixing agreement, but at the end of the day, if we don't put these two deals together, we can't make these deals pencil out and we won't have a deal on the table. And we've done real due diligence to make sure that that is the case and that we're putting our best forward to structure a deal that works.
And don't forget, you said it best, Councilman, the $5 million that we're putting in the deal will come back to CRDA for reinvestment in other projects down the road that will help the city. This is not a grant. This is a loan that they have to pay back.
Right, and I understand that, but the difference from that loan and the difference of the tax abatement, which I must say, I'm in my 6-year second term. I have never dealt with an agreement such as this one, which really has me thinking quite a bit about it. And I'll leave it at that. I won't make my other comments. But, I'm not a voting member here. I just hope that we do vet this extremely compared to the other tax abatement and agreements that we have with other developers. I have issues. Other than that, thank you for your service. And I will give the floor back to Madam Chair Rosado. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I can't see everyone on the screen. I know that we have 16 participants and I only see 2, 4, 6, 7. Are there any other council members that have any more questions? If not, I am going to yield the floor back to Councilwoman Surgeon, who had a couple of more questions. Going once, going twice for any council member that wants to show up on the screen for their questions. There being none, Councilwoman Surgeon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, back to Aaron. Hi, Aaron again. 525. I think I've got my questions finished with 275. So the property, the empty lots behind 525. I did have some reservations, as I've stated before, regarding now I gotta go find it. We were going to lease it to them, but don't collect the lease until X period of time. And that would sort of encourage them to build on it. Am I correct? I'm trying to find my.
Sure. So the ground lease. Okay. So first and foremost, I would throw out there that the developer originally proposed to purchase all 3 lots, and their original proposal did not show any future development on those parking lots. And so the city pushed back and said, look, we want to see more growth. We don't want to just have parking lots. And so we were willing to just sell 525 and separate out the lots in order to incentivize future development. Now, the developer still needs those lots to support some level of parking. So instead of selling it to them, we entertained the idea of a ground lease. And so what we did was we structured it in a 10-year, it's actually a 5-year ground lease term with the option to extend it for an additional 5 years. What we did was we came up with a value of about $32,500 per year. That is about what we would be collecting on it for taxes as of the assessed value today as a commercially rated property. So I don't know if you noticed this, but that 32.5, even in your first few years, is equal to, if not more, because the residential rate applies, right, for the residential side. So you're actually getting a little bit more on the lots per year. And what we said was, if you come to the table with a development plan in the first 5 years, what you pay into the first 5 years, we'll collect 32.5. We will deduct that from a total value of upfront negotiated value of those lots of $162,000. If they do not develop or come to the table with a development plan in the first 5 years, we continue to collect that 32.5. They're then allowed and offered an additional 5 more years to perform on development on those lots. And if they decide that they still have an option to purchase, we will continue to collect the 32.5, but we reduce that value a little bit. Of half of that goes towards the overall 162. So we do, it incentivizes them to develop in the first 5 years, to collect a little bit more in the last 5 years. And in the event they do not develop, the property reverts back to the city. And when the property reverts back to the city, it'll be actually an improved parking lot that the developer has invested in over the last 10 years to support the 525 development. And we did that specifically so that we could promote future development on that site. Now, I say that with the understanding that these developers have every intention on building an additional residential unit on that parking lot. They just focused on a phase 1, and they have already presented to us this idea of a phase 2 development once they can get the adaptive reuse done for 525. But this was our way of saying, well, we're going to set a value. We're still going to collect pilot payments or lease payments throughout the term, but we want to push and incentivize them to come to the table to make an additional investment in the city to support additional growth on those lots specifically.
That's a mouthful.
Can I add something? Sorry.
Okay.
Actually, with all this construction cost and everything else, at the very beginning of the project, when we even probably before we're going to enter an agreement with the and full development, we're actually paying about $300,000 of filing fees for construction to the city of Hartford. $300,000 coming from developers just to file the job. And the very first day, it's not going to be stretched over years or something, but it's about 300,000 between two projects. Sorry, like we did on all of the projects. And I want to point again, we did pay CRDA loan back on 5 Constitution Plaza in the year 4 after development was completed.
Thank you for that information. You know, and one of the things I heard during our conversation is the lack of, I wouldn't say market rate, affordable rate, subsidized, not sure what's the terminology, where majority of the residents that live in Hartford, you know, 1 bedroom or even a smaller apartment, the going rate of $1,000, $1,200. I know you need those funds to actually do the financing, but is there any proposal, and this has to do with this proposal here, you know, that we could have some apartments downtown for home ownership or even rental where, you know, it'd be much more conducive for a Hartford resident to live downtown? Is there anything in the proposal from Development Service to do that?
I guess from home ownership and rental. So are we looking for home ownership opportunities or more affordable rental units for Hartford residents? I guess
I think both. I think affordable is also one of the issues I think I hear my council colleagues talking about. And I also hear, you know, if I look at overall apartments rental that's going on in the city of Hartford downtown right now, I suspect there may be over 4,000 to 5,000 apartments going to be coming online in the next several years. And these are just rentals. You know, where is home ownership and where is the affordable out of these 4,000 to 5,000 apartments coming online in downtown?
So Charles, you want to try to tag team this response?
Well, again, if you look at Randy Salvatore, what he's doing, and you've all been on the tour of his project, that's 270 apartment units, and they're set-asides. They're anywhere from 10 to 20%. Across the street at Paso C, it'll be anywhere from 10 to 20%. All downtown, when you see these high rises go up, there are set-asides where the average person who may not have means, to your point, can live downtown. Now, sometimes because the rate are higher, what you might call market rate, is the only way the things will pencil out with the bank would be if you're getting higher rates. They cost a lot of money to build apartment units downtown. So you need market in order to pencil things out. But at the same time, you do need an opportunity for people who may be just regular folks living in the neighborhood, who may want to live downtown, to have a shot at a downtown apartment. So those set-asides will work that way. That's the way it's all set up. And DOH will not give you any money to help you do projects downtown unless you have set aside. The city will not give a tax abatement for the most part unless you have set aside. We do that. I mentioned before, and you might have heard this, Council, I'm not as concerned with affordable housing units because we have a ton of affordable housing units all through the city. I'm more concerned with what happened when your granddaughter leaves college and want to come to live in the city and all the units are affordable, but her income may be too high and she can't live in the city and she got to move to Bloomfield or someplace like that. We need more what I would call market rate workforce housing for people to live in the city who may not qualify for low or moderate income units. And we need more home ownership opportunities. But that's a song I've been singing for a long time.
And if I may to help, you know, to Charles's point, we ask for anywhere between 10 to 20%. And I think the way we looked at this is when we looked at these two deals specifically, it was easier for us to push the 20% on 525. And because the deal was so tight on 275, and keep in mind, these rent numbers aren't that far off as it is, but because the deal at 275 is the harder of the two deals, we didn't want to further restrict it by reducing or setting a standard for that gross revenue. And most importantly, since we really saw the value in the commercial space, we looked at it as that was the trade-off. We're still getting 20%, which means out of the 81 units, if you look at them combined, you're still getting at least 8 units of affordable housing in downtown. And we're getting this commercial space that's going to be activated with an investment by the developer. That's how we looked at these deals specifically. But I think to Charles's point, we typically do go after the 10 to 20% affordable units. And as it relates to home ownership, you know, we also have to make sure that the market supports home ownership. And I think in downtown, the condo model isn't really working right now. There isn't a strong market for it. And so we're trying to figure out how to make that happen, which isn't part of this deal, but it is something that we've been trying to think about across the city is how do we support and how do we help build a market for home ownership or condos, townhomes, and that sort of things in the city, generally speaking.
Thanks, Erin. Okay. So I think I'm finished with my questions. I'm comfortable, except for the 5,000. If you would love to put my 2 cents in to decide which one of the nonprofit organization you send that to.
Just for the record, the last time around, we had a deal put together. I think it was Park and Main.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we gave it to the Minority Construction Council. That they did a whole lot of work around trying to support and stabilize and bring in minority councils, both Black and brown. So we thought that was a good place to go. And then I think with Randy Salvatore, Aaron, I think we
same place, I believe.
Same place, yes, yeah.
I'm good with that. You know, Mr. Kleinberg, I would have to tell you that I have toured the Spectra's apartment downtown, and I'm very envious because they are gorgeous and the amenities that goes along with it. I like the concept that you can go from one apartment building and use the amenities in another apartment building. I think that's really a great asset that you have. Erin, I think you and Mr. Matthews have kind of answered all my questions, my due diligence questions, where from my little limited experience, you know, as far as the financing is concerned, you know, the city putting up, you know, $5 million is not a lot, you know, to get something, especially in front of City Hall, built. More than anything else, it would be nice to see people living across the street from us. And, you know, I'm looking forward to going to, you know, the restaurant downtown by was a place to be. So I'm comfortable. I think it's not the best deal. I think what you could have put together, Aaron, I think you did the best you can. So I'm really looking forward, Mr. Kleinberg, that, you know, 7 years from now, you know, when you start paying my real taxes, I'd be really happy, you know, to work with you on that. So if there's no other questions, Madam Chair, I'm finished with my questions, and I would like to put a resolution on the floor.
A motion?
The motion, sorry, I'm tired now.
Yes, go right ahead.
I'll put a motion on the floor to send this back favorably to the council for the next council meeting.
The chair entertained a second to that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any other discussions?
Could I make one point, Madam Chair?
Yes, yes.
I haven't been a former council member. I do sense some unreadiness with some council members. Let me just say this. Here in DDS, we worked long and hard with the developers, and I really truly mean when I say to you, this was a hard deal to put together, and we could only put it together by working with the developer to combine both parcels. And I think if we're not able to move this this transaction down the road, we may be at the point where we will have 525 and 275 set there for a while longer. And in all honesty, I have to say to the council members, that would be a tragedy for the city. We have an opportunity now to move these projects forward. And believe me, when you dig into the numbers of, for those of you who take
Sorry,
the time.
is there a motion on the floor?
I'm sorry.
Is there a, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yes, there is a current motion on the floor. Councilwoman Surgeon has made a motion to send this back with a
Favorably.
recommendation. Councilman Gale has seconded the motion, and we're in discussion, and Mr. Matthews was addressing the community. Welcome back, Councilwoman Bermudez, from your public.
Yeah, my point is I made it twice before. It's a good project. We worked really hard on it, and I truly believe it will benefit the city, and it's something that in the out years the council members will be proud of.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews, again, as always, for all of your hard work with having the city of Hartford at heart and in your best interest. Councilman Gale.
I'd just like to comment on the motion. I share Development Director Matthews' take on council, that folks have some questions, and obviously any action that's taken tonight does not approve this project. It still is going to require a vote of council. It just passes it back to council where that vote can take place. I share my colleagues' concerns. I had a lot of questions. I've listened attentively. We've been talking about this for quite some time this evening, and I understand that it's these deals, when you start to look at them, at times you can scratch your head and say, gee, well, all this money, what are we getting out of it? But I do think we do need to take a step backwards and keep in mind, 525 Main Street has been vacant for more than 10 years. That's a big parcel of property sitting right in the heart of downtown. The firehouse is not 10 years, but the firehouse has probably been vacant about 3-4 years now or more. And it's sitting next to the old YMCA in its back that has been vacant for probably more than 10 years at this point. We're the council of the city of Hartford. We're responsible for this city, the success or the failure of this city, and I don't think it's a successful city if we're sitting here with a bunch of large buildings that are vacant and empty and dark, with no economic activity taking place that isn't supporting our neighborhoods. The neighborhoods do not survive on their own. These neighborhoods are a neighborhood of something, and they've got to be a neighborhood of a vibrant downtown, from my point of view. It's not a wholehearted endorsement of the project. Do I wish it was a more lucrative project for the city of Hartford? Absolutely. But I respect the team at Development Services, and knowing that in all this time, no one else has come forward with any kind of a deal that made any sense to anyone. It certainly seems like a prudent move for us to at least pass this forward tonight to council, and let's continue that discussion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So for the record, because we discussed both items, can we please say the motion again, Councilwoman Surgeon, with all properties involved so that we can have one vote? I'm going to Corporation Council, if we could do that.
Sure. So the motion on the floor is to send back to council favorably both 525 and 275 Pearl Street favorably to the city council for the next council meeting. think it's 525 and 275, yes.
Yes, 525, you are correct.
Yeah, I'm sorry, no, it's 525 Main Street, and also the sale option for 17 and 21 Wells Street. And also both resolution and also the 275 Pearl Street. I think it's 3-4 and 3-1.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And I second that motion.
Okay, so that's items 2.2 and 2.3 going back to council with a favorable recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So that is 3 votes, ayes. Any noes, abstention, nays?
No.
Abstain.
Councilman Clark, you're gonna abstain?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
No.
No? Okay, that is a 3 yes vote, a no, an abstention. 3 votes. This resolution will go back to council with a favorable recommendation. I want to thank everyone who participated in this committee meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kleinberg, for being here. Our wonderful development team. My council colleagues, it's been a long night. Everyone have a good night, and I will see you guys, some of you guys tomorrow at our public safety committee meeting where we will be discussing the red light camera. Thank you and good night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Meeting is
Good night.
adjourned. Thank you. Bye.